Chair Waka. So please grab a welcome.
Tua te pina I rungi te kaupapa kai mo I a tātou I rāri ni te tini o tātou I pari. Tēnei te mei atu ki a koe toro, nā hau rā I whakahaere te timatanga me te karakia te atanai. Nō reira me ngā kanohi ki a koe te tiamana Fenton, ko koutou ngā councillors. I waingi noi ngā kanohi o te public o hapuri o Heri Taunga. Te matawa Māui tēnei te mei atu. Ko tai mai, ko au, ko mārai aputu I au. Ko hau te kai hauti o te tai whenua Here Taunga. Rāua nei ko mai o tiuga e whai me ngā hoa kaimahi o Ngāti Kamuhi Kani I Kaporai. Tēnei te mea atu a tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora and welcome, gentlemen. Just before we start, it's great to have you here at the table, and okay, we're talking about a particular topic today, and it is of great interest, but I did have a meeting with my co-chair Toro on Monday, and we actually feel it's probably opportune to extend the invitation to come and visit with us more often, and so we can align some of our thinking and be more coherent, if you like, on certain issues. So kia ora, welcome, and I hand the floor over.
Kia ora Fenton, and thank you for the invite. Probably actually want to reduce my workload and engagement with the Regional Council, to be honest. Particularly as I just have returned from a break, so apologies for any grammatical errors. So yeah, thank you for the invite and asking us to present on Plan Change 5 and our appeal to an Environment Court. Probably first off, besides the actual going to court, I think it's worth pointing out that we resolved quite a substantial amount of our appeals through the mediation process. So that's probably an endorsement of that Schedule 1 process. So most of our appeal points were settled there, and I've just put a brief summary of some of the most substantive points resolved in mediation, and they relate wider to Tank and to Tank, which I'm part of, and the case that actually went to court. So outstanding freshwater bodies, the resolution, whatever resolves to identify the outstanding freshwater bodies, which is a requirement of the National Policy Statement of Freshwater Management. We agreed to resolve and identify any outstanding freshwater bodies prior to any further plan changes. Of course, the Tukituki plan change has proceeded, so that's exempt, but it includes Tank, and in mediation it excludes Mohaka, because at that time that was seen to have progressed too far down the track, unfortunately. But we could potentially revisit that. And some of our other points that come to agreement, we were able to get greater recognition of the aquifer and the recharge of the aquifer and the protection of its integrity. So that directly relates somewhat to the prior discussion. And we also had a new tangata whenua objective inserted. So this is all available in a memo. I'm sure we can get it from council and else. So why we essentially went to court and what we couldn't resolve in mediation, and this is the crux of it for Ngāti Kahungunu. So the proposal to remove the objective around no degradation to groundwater policy and replace with groundwater quality suitable for human consumption. So what does it actually mean? Hopefully this might explain the level for human consumption is 11.3 milligrams of nitrate nitrogen per litre, which might mean nothing, but in context to on the right-hand column there, those are the council's measures from monitoring sites within the aquifer. So most of the measures barely come anywhere. It's on auto skip. Barely come anywhere near 11.3, and we were keen to protect the quality of the water. Most of them is below 1 milligram of nitrate nitrogen. That's a substantial difference in our mind, and one we're compelled to take to the next level of the Environment Court. So this is the outcome of the court decision. They basically gave everything we asked for, retained Objective 21, no degradation, and a slight amendment to Objective 22I, which was that cross out of unconfined, semi-confined and productive, because I felt that, and the court agreed, that productive is about the potential use of the groundwater quality, not just the groundwater quality itself. And that actually came up in a discussion just prior about its productive use, as opposed to, well, is it just worth protecting because it has quality, because it might be used in the future? Exactly what was being discussed. In the council report, I have to say, to be honest, I was quite disappointed. It's been a year since the council received a brief, or Regional Planning Committee received a brief on the our court result, and the outcome of the court decision was in March last year, and we went to court in December 2014. So it was quite a while ago, but I don't think, I think the decision, which is mainly around water quality, is still highly pertinent. So we've been asked to give our perspectives of Ngāti Kahungunu, but I'll endeavour to keep to basically the ruling and the facts, although the court did agree with majority of our perspectives, if you like. But in this instance, from my perspective of the council report, there were some significant aspects of the decision were omitted or downplayed, and that include perhaps more could have said around the values and interests of iwi that came out in that court decision and influenced the court, the judge and the two commissioners quite a bit. And there was a heavy refocus on the arguments of council, which were highly criticised by the court. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think that report table to the Regional Planning Committee was rejected. So the crux is again around water quality and maintain and enhance of water quality, and these are some of the comments around that from the court. The argument from council was around the historical land use. It's quite difficult to manage, which we don't deny, managing the load to come, because you might not know when and where it came from. But the court found that argument illogical, because we're talking about an objective and an aim to protect the water quality here. And the court said that, you're not going to get into deep trouble if you don't totally achieve that objective, but at least having an aim there is, you must attempt to at least attempt to try and maintain. So it's a mandatory, no excuse, and it's basically an RRMP function. So it was great, and it provided that clarity around that. So, and the court went on to say, basically, the intensification, whatever the intensification leads to higher potential pollutants, technology and best practice needs to be developed to maintain and, where degraded, enhance the environment to ensure the sustainability principles of the RMA are fulfilled. We also agree that with the court where better land practices can result in a reduction in the release of contaminants to land and to groundwater. This can address both existing and future uses. So, yeah, just discussed in that previously was it around isotope testing, and we will endorse increased isotope testing as well to better understand the source and age. So while the previous discussion was predominantly around the quantity of water and what's available, it also can inform the quality of water, where it's from, or the whakapapa. So I think it gives effect to a number of objectives. Objective 21, of course, that we sought to retain, and other objectives within the regional policy statement. I won't go through them, and the national policy statement objectives around tangata whenua interest, objective D1. And of course, RMA in section 30, maintain and enhance water quality as a function of council. So one of the arguments or the basis for the position of regional council and essentially others is around this unders and overs, maintaining and enhancing the overall water quality. Does it allow for unders and overs, which is the degradation of water quality in one area while increasing the quality of water in another area? The court thought that was a fundamentally flawed interpretation of the national policy statement, and there's essentially acceptance of a lower water quality and working down rather than up, which was inconsistent with the RRMP. And this in itself is probably the most substantive ruling from the court, and is nationally, not just locally, and has provided a lot of clarity in regards to freshwater quality management and interpretation of the national policy statement, because prior to that there was some ambiguity, and it's hopefully thought this is settled that. And I do know in other cases or other councils in areas around the country that it has been referred to. And part of that basis was the practicalities of implementing an overs and unders approach. There's a whole lot of difficulties, and this has been well documented in submissions when the RMA reforms came in, or the National Policy Statement draft came in, comments from the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment and others. How would you implement an over and unders approach? What kind of contaminant would you allow to degrade in one area, and how would you offset it in the other area, and how would you set an average? And other points as noted up there, it was deemed as non-workable and a faulty approach. While we were successful in the interpretation of the planning, our interpretation of the planning framework, also it's fortunate that evidence from Māori and Maori Black and Ngāhiwi, the court saw as directly relevant and very powerful. The culture and traditions were seen as to the fore, and the relationship of that culture and traditions with water was clear in the court's mind. So I won't go through reading that, but it's substantially related to Section 6E of the RMA and the Objective D1 of the National Policy Statement. I won't bother to try and reiterate Māori and Ngāhiwi's evidence. They gave it's all documented, and I don't think I can do it justice, to be honest. I tried it before. So implications going forward, there's another recommendation, because this is just objective, and also we would like to see policy and rules and conditions and consents that give effect to the objective of no degradation to our groundwater quality. And here's one possible consent condition in future consents that we were recommending. And also the Tuki plan. So they were running concurrently, and obviously the hierarchy, which the court also talked about, that the national policy statement shouldn't be out of context of the RMA. So should a catchment plan shouldn't be out of sync with regional policy statement. So they're running concurrently, and the Tuki plan actually got ahead of the regional policy statement. So due to their timing, which we saw as the cart before the horse, the Tuki plan is now inconsistent somewhat with the regional policy statement. Also, the linkages between the Tuki and the Heretaunga aquifer, which is documented in a number of council reports, that seems to have fallen through the gaps in terms of its recharge or overlooked. And sometimes the aquifer, if we're looking at surface water or catchment plans, because it crosses so many, that can happen, and especially since it's three-dimensional, it can be overlooked, and we're obviously a lot more information everybody wants to know about the aquifer. In the council's report, I have to say that it was concerned that there's a paragraph there that Ngāti Kahungunu and other parties would rely on this decision to support our position. So I was unsure what that position refers to. It also noted the process and avenues to mitigate the decision through the tank process and the decision pathway, and effectively ignore whatever our apparent position is. So not sure what the position was referring to in the report, or assumed that the only clear position that could be assumed is that the iwi is interested in and values the maintenance enhancement of fresh water quality. However, after the ruling, it was clear that that's not a function of the iwi, that is the function of the council, and again, it's not our preference of the iwi to ensure that the council is compliant with this function, nor to have to champion in the objective through the tank plan change process, although invariably I'm joined in the room, and I'd like to acknowledge others from mana whenua participants in the tank process who will invariably champion no degradation to the water quality in Heretaunga and elsewhere throughout Kahungunu. There was also highlighted that this might be difficult to actually work through in the tank process, but on the contrary, there's been no challenging discussions with tank stakeholders. In fact, the relationship with industry stakeholders, I think, is relatively good. Many have provided the support and constructively considered how to maintain enhanced water quality, and basically just accepting the decision and moving on with it, which is great. It makes my job easier. So essentially, we feel the court ruling was quite clear and provided in-depth explanation and direction, which I've only just touched on. They said strive for management practice that will prevent degradation, and that's the crux of what we're striving for, and we know that that is quite a common objective amongst tangata whenua of Kahungunu, and over a number of years that we've traversed up and down Kahungunu, and more recently concentrated on water and water quality. It has been quite a strong objective that we've put up in resolution in a number of hui a iwi and hui a hapu, and in our tank mana whenua discussions to maintain, enhance and restore water quality is a high level objective that we all agree to. So that's basically it of my presentation. Kia ora, any questions?
Kia ora. We were. It's been good to get you here, and there's been an ambition to get this explanation for some time. So I'll open it up to a couple of questions, but really it was their time, I think. But Councillor Bevan.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for your presentation. It's been very interesting to get your perspective on all of this. You had a recommendation there in regard to isotope examination. Could you just maybe expand on that a little?
So that somewhat links back to the load to come, and it's been problematic to measure the load to come. Where is it from? What's impacting on the water quality now or in the future? So if the isotope tests, as discussed, can tell us where the water is from, the source and the age, for my mind, that would enlighten and help give effect to the objective of maintaining the water quality. And I took note of the discussion, and there has been a bit of work done on that. And perhaps there could be more extensive work around the springs. And with that regard, I would endorse further explorations of deeper wells, also to understand the source and the age of the water, and to help mitigate any land use that might potentially degrade the water quality as the objective within the regional policy statement.
Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Thank you for your presentation. You did raise the issue that this was an objective only, and you've made some recommendations. Can you clarify that? Are you seeking a further plan change, or are you just looking for some general direction from council over this? Could you?
Well, no, give effect to the objective within the catchment plans, and which are yet to come, and hope to insert some policy and rules around that. For example, for tanks. So we'll be reiterating these.
So subsequent changes,
so
you're looking for more detail?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And those are some of our thoughts.
Councillor Balfour.
If I understand this, your case was brought specifically around the issue of aquifers and non-degradation of aquifers, and is that right? And,
yes.
And secondly, given how strongly the court spoke to this issue, would you assume that no degradation as a policy should be reflected in our approach to freshwater in these future plan changes?
In terms of groundwater or freshwater specifically?
Freshwater. I mean, this is pretty clear what they've said about aquifers.
So,
what about freshwater?
yes, certainly. As a consequence of the ruling and reference to the function of council in Section 30 of the RMA, maintain and enhance, I think is the words, water quality, I certainly think the decision by the court and is an aspiration of many tangata whenua in general, not just to maintain and enhance the quality of groundwater, but all our waterways. And there's a lot of rationale behind that, and other values and interests we have.
Ben?
Councillor Graham.
Firstly, thanks, guys. On two levels, I do have a question, but on two levels, I just really want to thank you what you did. You used your own money, and you took us on, and you won, and some of us supported that all along the lines, but I'm rather embarrassed that you had to do that. How do you feel about taking on your council and using your funds, which would be better for something else, to do this?
Yes, not desirable. Like I said at the beginning, I'd prefer to have less engagement of this nature with council. I can't speak of the funds personally. We don't have a lot. But in hindsight, the kōrero from the court actually was very, very useful. Not just for the groundwater, but across the whole catchment, across Hawke's Bay, and obviously across the country in terms of maintaining water quality, which as I noted was a strong aspiration of tangata whenua. So it actually turned out to, I would have preferred not to have the workload, but it actually turned out as a positive, and hopefully as an investment to reduce the workload in future and just get on with things and how to best maintain the water quality.
Councillor Barker.
Yeah, thank you. I'd echo the comments of Councillor Graham and say that the decision of the court was a stunning victory for your point of view. And I just want to pick up on the part that you said about having more regular meetings with the council. You don't want to add to the workload. But I do think the question we have to face is here, isn't it better to have a better quality relationship? We do not standing on either side of the courtroom arguing against each other, that we can resolve these issues better. And how do you think we can, apart from the Joint Planning Committee, which is obviously part of that, how do you think we're going to be able to manage these relationships better so we don't have this unseemly row of the family having a scrap in court?
$1 million question.
It might be above my pay grade, the answer. That's Jonathan. Geez, I'm quite loath to come up with it right here on the spot. I mean, don't take my comment and I don't want to increase. I mean, it doesn't mean I don't want to engage more. Perhaps it would be an investment, and it would be nice to get on in early and to help share an understanding on how our values and interests, and particularly those that are protected and guaranteed within legislation and our statutory framework, how they are given effect. I know quite often it's difficult for non-Māori and full council to implement, and in our mind, obviously there are quite a lot of raru per se that would tangata whenua not satisfied with in general the resource management, with the resources in their management. So getting in early would be favourable, and it's a double-edged sword of understanding for tangata whenua the planning framework and what the words might mean to our interests and values, and vice versa, sharing what our values and interests are and how they are catered for.
Thank you.
So I don't know if that answered the question, sorry, but...
Well, that was a useful addition at the end. Thank you very much. Someone happy to move we accept that report, Toro? And second, Councillor Graham, you got a question there?
Well, I want to endorse the congratulations, but also want to say that the Māori members of JPC are intending to meet in between these meetings, and it would be a good forum to have you as part of those meetings so that we can get ourselves on the similar page. So I extend that welcome to you.
Seconder, I'll just take a mover and seconder because we're going to break for lunch. So,
Want to talk?
yeah, absolutely.
Thanks once again. I'm just very grateful that you had the guts, the courage, and the resources to go through this process. Thanks. From all the ratepayers in Heratonga. Thanks.
Kia ora. Well done.
Kia ora.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll now break for lunch. But I'll put the motion. Thank you very much, Councillor Bevan. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Fantastic. Thank you. We're back in the saddle. 1 o'clock, please, after lunch.